Am I the a-hole for not being a team player within my family so my siblings can have the best? My parents resent me for being born. They were 19 when they had me, and I ruined their plans for college and their lives. They kept me, but they told me the heat of the moment when I asked too much from them that they have expressed their resentment for me. My parents had my brothers and sisters starting when I was 8. Now I'm 17 and they have 5 kids, me included. They love my siblings, and they go above and beyond for them. Always have. And they expect me to not only be okay with that, but they want me to also go above and beyond for them. They have told me I'm not a team player, that I am not a good sister, and that I am not doing what I should as the oldest. I work and go to school. I babysit as a side gig too. I have money that I save, but I never spend it on my siblings, and it drives my parents crazy. I have been paying for my own food for the last 2 years, and I don't really interact with anyone. It came to a head about a week ago when my 7-year-old sister wanted a specific Halloween costume after she was teased for the one my parents bought her. My parents couldn't afford a new one and asked me to buy her whatever she wanted. I said no. My sister ended up asking me herself because mom and dad couldn't. And when I said no again, my parents blew a fuse and said I wasn't being a team player and I should want my siblings to have the best. They said I should love my siblings enough to make their lives the best possible, and that I should stop being selfish and immature. I told them they should have been better parents and created a family instead of making me the outsider. And that is not my job to ensure their favorite children get the life they never wanted to provide for me. They said it's not their fault they didn't want to have me. I told them it wasn't mine either, that I had no say in being born or being kept. I said I do have a say in what happens when I turn 18, and to hell with them because I was not going to keep being punished for my birth. My siblings heard the fight, and I can see they're upset that I'm not more loving and invested in them. I guess that's why I ask, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, not in the slightest. You were not responsible for your birth. They were. It's not fair for them to consistently punish you for not acting as a third parent to their subsequent offspring. Parentification at its finest. It needed to be said. What your sibling heard was collateral damage from the truth. It would have come out one way or another. At least they found out and can adjust their expectations. It seems like the parents are growing increasingly resentful that Opie's getting to the age they were when they had Opie, and yet doesn't have to sacrifice her life for a kid. So they're trying to make Opie do exactly that. Not the a-hole. They are being hypocrites. They resent you for ruining their lives, but they had 4 other kids aside from you, and they seem to be happy to have these other kids. If they willingly had other kids, then they can't have anything against you. They weren't a team player when not including you in the family. They were expecting you to use your hard-earned money to pay for something they want, since they couldn't get their lives together. I'm so sorry your biological parents treat you like some outsider of a benefactor and servant, who's supposed to serve and provide for their family. They are wrong, period. You're not a parent and don't deserve to be expected to be one. They expect gratitude for 17 years of mistreatment, but you are not obligated to validate their unjust demands and insane delusions. Don't let them guilt you into sacrificing yourself. Your parents scapegoated you for their poor decisions, which is a truly disgusting thing of them to have done. I do have sympathy for the younger kids as they seem to be caught in the middle of this, and as a result are missing out on an older sibling and all the cool benefits that can come along with that. Opie should get the hell out of that situation as soon as humanly possible, but should also try to connect with her siblings. Just as Opie had no choice, neither did they. As long as the children aren't entitled or treat Opie any differently, they are their own persons and may want a totally different and far more positive relationship. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my adopted parents the money they needed I got from my dad's parents? So I always had a great relationship with my parents. I was adopted at birth and told when I was a toddler. Everything was fine until I turned 16/17. My parents were both in their late 30s and decided it wasn't too late, and that with the advance of fertility technology in the years, it is possible they could still have a biological baby. I was a bit hurt they wanted a biological child so badly, especially after years and years, and told them they should foster, but they said no. They wanted another try. A lot of their word choices hurt me. I'm now 23. They have been trying for a baby using IVF and other methods to no avail. My mother is now 46. Not trying to be ageist or anything, but it can be hard to conceive even with fertility treatment. When my parents, who went from being doting and loving to now contacting me twice a month since I moved out at 21, invited me over for dinner, I was so happy, got ready and everything, and drove an hour and a half away. To my surprise, the dinner was just an excuse for my parents to ask me if I could carry one of their last embryos for them, and that they would help me pay off my student loans. I was so offended and felt like an incubator. They barely speak to me, and they only invited me to ask me that 10 minutes into it. I left their house in tears. Sadly, just a week later, my grandfather, Dad's dad, passed away. After the funeral, I told my grandma why I wasn't talking to my parents at the service since we were always close, and she was so shocked at what they asked me. She told me she'd give me the money they promised to my dad for my grandfather's insurance to pay off my loans. When my parents found out, they've been texting me begging me to give them just a portion of the money for their treatments, and they wouldn't even need me and they'd hire a surrogate and that they were sorry. I said no, and now they've been calling me the biggest a-hole and saying I'm being greedy. Even some families say I'm being too hard by not giving them anything. Haven't even gotten the money yet, and me and my grandma are being painted out as the major a-holes. Are we? I'll have money left over I pay my loans, but they aren't much. And it's been their dream for years, and I'm overreacting by the request. I'm so sorry your parents are being like this. You did nothing wrong. They have no claim to your body like that. Being a surrogate for family is something you should do because you want to, not because they are holding money over your head. Now that I'm getting the money, they're saying it's not about that they asked me to carry their baby. I'm just being selfish because I want to be the only child. Even though that's not why I just feel hurt, they had asked me that like I'm not their daughter. It's cemented that they don't see me as their daughter anymore. They're begging my grandma to give me only exact enough for my loans, and giving them the rest like they were promised. I feel bad because my mom was crying about it and she said she regrets asking me, but I feel like she's just saying that because she didn't think my grandma would take the money back. I don't know. I'm conflicted. Don't feel bad, hon. I am appalled at how they treated you, and they should be ashamed of themselves. You don't owe them anything, and good on grandma for recognizing how despicable their behavior has been. They don't deserve a baby after how they treated you. She regrets it because she's not getting what she wants anymore. It doesn't sound like the apologies were coming in when it was just about your hurt feelings. She's 46. However much I get her dream, it is time to call it quits. They got so obsessed they forgot they already had a daughter and neglected you. Now they're trying to use you as an incubator and cash cow for their shriveled up dreams. Anti-A, anti-A, anti-A. The selfishness is off the charts here. With a mother at 46, that kid would be almost certain to have some form of permanent health issues or disabilities. Wow. I'm curious as to how they would have paid off your loans if they are crying out for money now. Sounds like something they would have backtracked on, given their behavior. I'm sorry that you're going through this. Your grandma sounds like a great lady. Keep her close and mute the negativity. Their reproductive stuff is not your fault, your issue or your responsibility. Good luck. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my daughters take my friend's daughter on their trip? My 46 female twin daughters, 21 female Tori and Tammy, are both in college and they're planning to do a 2-week trip to Italy, and I'm paying everything as a birthday gift. My best friend Diane has a daughter, 18 female Lori, and she has been worried because Lori has no friends. My daughters and Lori used to be closer when they were little, but grew apart when they became teenagers. Diane asked me if my daughters could try to include Lori in their social lives so she isn't lonely all the time. I called Tammy about this, and she felt bad about Lori, so she has been talking more to her since. They invited Lori to their dorm one time and go out with her a few times. I thought that the next step was to invite Lori to the trip to Italy. First, I talked with Diane about it and she agreed. She said that Lori has been happier since she started seeing my daughters again. Diane said that if my daughters agreed, she would pay for Lori to go to Italy with them. But when I talked to them, they were not happy with the idea. They say that Lori's too childish and would prevent them from having more adult fun in Italy. I think they are being really selfish and mean. Also ungrateful to me, considering I'm paying for everything. We have been arguing, and I more or less said that Lori's going with them, even if they don't want to. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. Your daughters are grown-up young ladies. We shouldn't be making playdates for them anymore. They might enjoy Lori's company for dinner or an outing, but they don't want to spend 2 weeks with her. You are giving a gift with strings attached, which is not a nice thing to do. Heck, I have some fantastic friends that I'm close to but I'm not interested in traveling with. Our respective personalities wouldn't make us good travel buddies, and that's okay. It doesn't mean we're not good friends. Can we also focus on there maybe being a real reason this girl doesn't have any friends? I guess it's her copter mom. Probably micromanaged her friend group so intensely that Lori has no clue how to make her own friends. Mom, you're the a-hole. I appreciate your kind mom's heart that feels for that 18-year-old, but your daughters are 21, and there's a big difference in those 3 years. It's not ungrateful at all. It's a gift you chose to give them. They didn't ask for it. Why should they have to accommodate someone else on their trip and be responsible for her? Lori has no friends, but it isn't your daughter's responsibility to make up for that. Please let them go on a trip for their birthday by themselves. It's not fair. Lori can learn to make her own friends. Those girls have already done as you asked and included her in their regular social lives. Let them go to Italy. This right here. Let your daughters have their time together and don't force them to bring someone along they don't particularly want to. If you do, they'll just end up resenting you every time they remember the trip. The biggest mistake you made was to talk with Diane about Lori going before you spoke to your daughters. General rule, always clear this kind of thing first with the folk who are impacted most if it goes through, and last with the folks who are impacted most if it doesn't go through. This way, if your twins reject the idea, like they have, then Lori doesn't have any hopes built up that get dashed. I just hope Diane ever told Lori about it, otherwise this will crush her. What's worse is that Lori will blame Tori and Tammy, and this will drive a wedge between them and their relationship. Hell, it's a no-win, even if you do end up forcing Lori to go to Italy with Tori and Tammy. Lori isn't stupid, she'll realize that she isn't wanted there. All forcing her to go will do is breed more resentment. Tori and Tammy versus Lori for her intruding on what should have been a sister's trip, and Lori versus Tori and Tammy for not wanting her there. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not visiting my parents when my sister is around with her kid? I, 25 female, have 2 sisters, 28 female and 31 female. My oldest sister has a kid. I'm also planning on having kids in the future, and I love kids, but sometimes I get exhausted around them. I love my own kid, and I'm hoping to be the best mother ever, but I can't stand the expectation that I have to constantly like other people's kids and always be willing to care for them no matter what. Let's call the middle sister Kate and the oldest Jenny. Jenny has totally changed since having a kid. She used to want to stay child-free, but after an unplanned pregnancy, she decided to keep the kid, and she is now a stay-at-home mom. But since then, she's not the greatest person. She expects everyone to be her maid and her kid's babysitter. When she's around, she expects everyone to be 100% focused on her kid, and if you're not, she'll shame you for being a child hater. She's unbearable. My sister Kate has always been a people pleaser, and she does everything to seem like the good sister and aunt, even if it means putting her own needs aside. That's her choice, and I don't necessarily mind, but I'm not like that. I play with a kid, care for the kid, but I can't always be running behind a kid at all times. Whenever my sister is visiting my house, she's never checking her kid and expects everyone else to do so. Same thing when she visits my parents. The last time she visited my place, her kid broke a vintage porcelain doll my fiancé had gifted me, which used to belong to his grandma. It was very sentimental. And when my sister barely reacted to the kid breaking my doll, she also said I'm not a kid to be sad over a fricking doll and told me to get over it. She blamed me for not watching her kid, and if I had watched her, she wouldn't have broken my doll. I told her that unless she starts caring for her own kid, she won't be allowed in my house. A few days later, I had visited my parents. Jenny was there and so was Kate. Kate was always making comments about how heartless I am because I don't pay attention to the kid. She accused me of hating the kid and claimed she's the better aunt. Jenny laughed with Kate about it. They then started making fun of me for being sad about the doll. I said it's not just about the doll, but about the expectations she puts on other people. My parents and my sister Kate sided with Jenny and said I should be grateful she's warming me up just in time to also be a mom. I said I've had enough of being bullied into watching her kid. And while I love the kid, I won't visit my parents whenever Jenny's around because I feel exhausted both physically and emotionally when the mocking takes place. They said I'm being dramatic and I should get over myself. They claim I'm also a child hater if I refuse to watch and play with the kid all the time. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your family sounds exhausting. I've never understood why people think they don't need to supervise their own kids just because there are other adults in the same area/house. Her kids are her responsibility. Even if someone else is playing with their child, it's still up to the parents to monitor their behavior and correct them and generally meet their needs, like food and hydration and toileting needs, etc. I'm exhausted because I'm blamed for not being behind her kid 24/7. When I dare have my own interests and life, I'm accused of not loving her kid. They even say that to the kid that Aunt X doesn't love you as much Aunt Kate loves you more, which is ridiculous. They're conditioning the kid to see me as someone who doesn't love her. Yes, refuse to be around your sister, who is entitled and a bully. If your parents or other sister give you crap when you visit, calmly say you refuse to be manipulated and leave. No drama, yelling or flaunting out the door. Just calmly say, okay, gotta go, and do it. Every single time. If they still won't stop, even knowing you'll leave when they start up, they've demonstrated that they don't value you as a person, only someone to push around. Then you'll have no qualms at going low contact. I'm sorry, but your family sounds awful. You should be grateful she's warming you up? No. Her kid, her responsibility. It would be different if she specifically asked you to watch her kid for a certain period of time, like if she had to run an errand. But she just can't assume everyone in eyesight is now automatically a babysitter, and she can relax and ignore the child. Not the a-hole for setting and enforcing boundaries. She and my parents shame me for not keeping my eye on kid 24/7 whenever I'm around my sister. They tell the kid that I don't love her. My sister doesn't work and she's responsible for her house and her kid, yet expects everyone else to do the work for her. She only goes out for coffee and drinks with her friends and expects my mom to babysit my niece all the time. And my mom also cleans my sister's house and cooks for her and her husband. My sister and her husband do nothing to care for their own house and family.
Am I the a-hole for not helping my parents during their financial troubles and telling them to get help from my sister instead, since she gets everything from them and I get nothing? My 21-year-old sister and I, 24, were raised differently by our parents. They would throw money at her whenever she wanted it, and they would spend it even if she didn't ask for something, just because they could. I had to ask for everything, and most of the time, I had to justify why I needed my request met. To do that, I had to write or type out a detailed argument on why I should get any of their money. Most times, I was denied because they didn't think it was a need. Whenever they denied me, I got lectured on learning to work my butt off and learning how to beg just right and do whatever it took for money, only to be told afterward that I needed my own money because theirs was not for me. When I was 16, my parents told me they would not help me with college in any way. They wouldn't even fill out FAFSA forms for me to find out what I was eligible for. When my guidance counselor asked them to reconsider, they said no. And if I wanted to go to college, I would need to put myself through college and take on the debt myself. My guidance counselor still wanted me to go, and so did many of my teachers. But I chose to do something else. I didn't want a lifetime of debt to follow me around. My parents didn't care, because either way I was expected to find my own way and pay for everything myself. With my sister, it was different. They bought her a brand new car, bought all kinds of stuff she wanted and liked, and paid 100% of everything for her college expenses. They were even sending her extra money to buy stuff while she was attending college. And now they have run out of money and are in debt because they borrowed to pay more college expenses for her. Then they turn to me and ask for my help because they weren't sure if they could eat or pay any bills with the debt they are now in. I didn't even get much of an explanation at first, but I have told them no each time and told them to get my sister to help them since she's the one who gets everything from them anyway, and I couldn't even get a stupid form signed by them. They're mad about it, and so is my sister, who thinks I am wildly unfair to push this back on her. She said I'm older anyway, so I should be helping them. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your parents are reaping what they sow. Cut contact. Have a great life. I've been considering it for the last few years, so it might be time to follow through. I would personally be a B, so only do this if you want to be a B. Send them a text message telling them that they need to explain in detail, the way they used to have you do, why they need this money. Make sure that every little detail is in there. Then respond back with each thing they request, why you're saying no, alluding to all of them that they aren't needs. They need the electric bill paid? No, they need another job. They need money for food? Nope. They need to start a garden in their backyard. Then after you've given them a no for everything, and by letting them know that you're blocking them and your sister and going no contact, because you're making sure that they can pull themselves up by their bootstraps the way they taught you, then block and live your life. Not the a-hole. I see your family has entered the faux phase of FAFO. But my question for you is, why are you still communicating with these people? What do they even bring to the table that justifies you spending a minute of your time on them? Look up the term found families and go find people who will appreciate and love you for being the awesome you that you are, and will love and support you with no expectations of recompense. They are out there and they are worth looking for. I have 90% of my family on very low contact because they just don't care to reach out. And they only do that when they want something. Caller ID allows me to choose if I want to answer, and I rarely do. Very, very rarely. I've considered no contact before, but just never followed through. I can't answer why, other than the expectation to work through things with family. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my brother after his ex-girlfriend scammed him out of nearly half the equity of his house? I, 37 female, have an older brother George, 45 male, who isn't an idiot but can be lazy. Definitely the type to rely on weaponized incompetence whenever women and girls are around. Example, he literally acted like he didn't know where our mom kept the paper plates in the house he lived in for nearly 20 years, just so she'd get up, go into the kitchen, and make him his plate during the holidays, just 1 week post her bunion surgery. Side note, they both tried to passive-aggressively make me feel guilty for not offering to fix my adult brother's plate, so our mom wouldn't have to do it. Like I wasn't already the one doing most of the cooking, and would be doing most of the cleaning afterward. At age 30, George was given a windfall from our grandfather's estate. I got something too, and used it as a down payment for a nice 5-bedroom house that's easily worth double now. During this time, he met Melinda, 50 female, and she was a nice lady, smart, responsible, hardworking, sweet, and very organized. She came into the relationship with a steady job and was upfront about her lack of ability to have more children after complications from nearly losing her life giving birth to her daughter. George stated that he was okay with that, but whenever Melinda would bring up his hesitation regarding marriage, he'd say that he had complicated feelings about not being able to be a father if he chose to fully commit to her, and that he needed to process it. He'd say that since he was willing to look past her fertility issues because he loved her, she needed to show her love by waiting for him. That line worked for 12 years. After Melinda moved in, George demanded that she pay half the bills and part of his mortgage in exchange for allowing Melinda's daughter to move in with her. At the time, Melinda had few options since her former landlord was raising the rent too high, and she was helping pay for her sister's medical bills. Melinda and George justified it to everyone by saying that what she would have had to pay to George was still cheaper than her old rent. I said nothing because it wasn't my relationship. 2 years ago, George was caught cheating, and Melinda was furious and left. I don't know all the details, but she came back, seemingly to work things out. It didn't stop George from cheating again, but Melinda shrugged and said that this was still a better deal, and that as long as he kept it out of the house, she'd cope. Recently, there was some type of damage to George's house, and he needed people to come in and fix it. But he hated the labor of searching for a reliable contractor, taking time away from his job and hobbies to deal with them and handling the paperwork. Melinda offered to do it, and he didn't question it. Whatever she gave him, he signed in front of third-party witnesses. Melinda got George to sign paperwork stating that she was entitled to 45% of his house. Now she's dumped him and is demanding that George either sell his house or buy her out. George is trying to fight this, citing that he didn't fully understand what he was agreeing to, and he's found a lawyer willing to take his case, but the fees are expensive. George and our mom think that I should help, but I'm refusing. I don't see why I have to shell out thousands to save another grown man from his own lack of foresight, especially when there's a good chance he won't even win. I'm being called heartless and a bad sister, so I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. George had it coming. Stringing that woman along for years, manipulating her by making her feel guilty over not being able to have more children, having her pay half the mortgage for his house, and then cheating on her? He made the bed. Let him lie in it. My new favorite line. Schadenfreude, because karma doesn't mind if you watch. Not the a-hole, but who is expecting to have more kids with a 50-year-old? For me, it sounds more like he was looking for an excuse to play victim since the beginning of the relationship. By the way, I'm not the youngest woman, and I think this question is important. She was in her 40s when they got together, but I agree he was just using that as an excuse. Not the a-hole. Your brother is a cheater and a fool. Was Melinda a bit underhanded? Arguably, yes. Does she deserve a share of the house in return for all she paid into it? Not to mention 12 years of domestic and emotional labor? Arguably also yes. But when it comes to whether you should shell out for your brother's legal fees, the answer is an unequivocal no. He was a huge a-hole and ridiculously careless with his most significant asset, and that's not your responsibility to fix. He's an adult. He needs to fix his own mistake. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologize for texting my dad and his affair partner wife's bosses about their affair? I, 20 male, saw my dad and his wife, aka the woman who helped break up my parents' marriage, for the first time in a few years the other weekend. This all comes back to something that happened 8 years ago. I was 12. I knew my dad had cheated on my mom. They were divorcing at the time, and I was at my dad's house. He was already living with his affair partner, and they left me in the same room as their phones. So I opened up their work contacts and texted their bosses about the affair, saying a lot of not-so-great things about them both. My dad's wife found out about it first, and she freaked out. She was screaming and asking what the heck I did, and called me a little turd. I laughed in her face pretty much, and when my dad realized, he was more calm, but asked me why I'd do something like that. I said something to the effect of, actions have consequences, and how he used to tell me that all the time. It was this big issue for over a year. I refused to apologize for it, and so they stopped letting me come over, because I used to gloat that there was nobody I wouldn't tell. I saw my dad a couple of times after that, but it had been easily 4 years since I saw him last before the other weekend. It came up during dinner. My dad's wife brought it up, and she said I ruined their reputations and that they had never recovered from it, so I owed them a huge apology. She said I could have cost them everything and asked what I expected them to do. I told her she didn't want me to answer that because my opinion of them wasn't very high. I refused to apologize, and she tried to start a fight, but I ignored her. My grandparents told her to quiet down, but she was sulking and making it all about her and my dad. She tried to demand an apology again after an hour, and my grandparents asked her and my dad to leave. My grandparents said they regretted inviting them. Most of my aunts and uncles found it funny, and one of my uncles even told me my dad and his wife have cheated on each other at least 3 times, which made me so happy. Apparently, they're sensitive about it, which is why she shut up when I told her she didn't want to know what I'd expect them to do. But then one of my aunts was like, I should have apologized for the sake of the time and place it happened in. She told me what I did was too much and that I should realize involving myself like that was wrong. I don't regret it, and I'm not sorry, so I feel no apology is warranted. But for the sake of curiosity, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It was 8 years ago, and you were a child. Now your dad's wife is the child. Tell dad's wife to get over it, and tell your aunt to mind her own business instead. Hopefully, that's the last I see of my dad or his wife. I did not enjoy being in their presence again. This is just me, however. I get the distinct feeling that dad and the current wife deserve one another. I actually agree. They can stop hurting others by being together and cheating on each other. Not the a-hole. You were 12. For them to be carrying on about it 8 years later is ridiculous. Besides, they were wrong and hurt your mother. They should be apologizing for that. I don't think she ever let it go, really. Probably spent the last 8 years waiting for the day I'd cry about how sorry I am. When the truth is, I was never sorry. And if I didn't regret it when Dad stopped making time for me, I wasn't going to be sorry for her. Not the a-hole. You were 12 and justifying angry. Any relative badgering you for an apology needs to be reminded that we're only 12. Your dad had no business having you and his mistress over at the same time. I reminded my aunt that Dad's wife was the one to bring it up. She could have been an adult and focused on the reason we were there and ignored me. Then nobody would have been asked to leave. Last story. My mom and stepdad said I'm making a big deal out of sharing a room on vacation, and I should still consider it a vacation for me. Am I the a-hole? I, 16 male, am in a blended family. My mom and dad had me. My dad died, and my mom remarried when I was 8. My stepdad's ex-wife walked out on him, and my stepbrothers, 12 and 10, because she couldn't handle their oldest having special needs. At home, I share a room with Jaden, 12. He has developmental delays that cause him to remain more like a younger child than a 12-year-old. He's not independent. He can be clingy like a younger kid, and he needs someone with him when he sleeps because he gets scared and wakes up. He's also a really big talker and keeps me up some nights. My stepbrothers don't get along, so he was put in with me to keep the peace. I don't really like sharing a room with him. I told my mom and my stepdad this before. They told me they understand, but we only have 2 bedrooms for the 3 of us, and it's more harmonious and better for him if he's not with someone who gets so annoyed they treat him badly like his brother Camden does. For the most part, I try to make the most of it. I got a divider put in our room a couple of years ago, and it helps me feel like I have some space. But it gets tiring when he wakes me up in the middle of the night or wants to cuddle with me. I don't let him into my bed. My stepdad helps enforce that because he knows I would sleep on the couch if my bed was taken over, and then my stepbrother would scream the whole house awake. We don't go on vacations, ever, because Jaden has a lot of therapies that cost so much money, and we have stuff at home to help soothe him, and those are expensive and cost a lot to keep running, according to my mom. We did go on vacation this summer, and I was supposed to get my own room this time. But when we got there, that didn't happen. To make it worse, I didn't even have a bed because there was only one queen-size bed in the room. I did have my sleeping bag with me, so I slept in that. But I had to sleep on stuff on my sleeping bag so Jaden would know I was in there. I hated the whole vacation, and my mom told me it wasn't meant to be that way, but it was better than Jaden and Camden fighting for 10 whole days. By day 2, I was over it. It wasn't a vacation to or for me, or however I should be saying that. It was their vacation. But I didn't relax or get a break from the typical stuff. I still had to think of Jaden and only Jaden. I told both sets of my grandparents and my aunts and uncles when they asked about it. I told my cousins. I didn't pretend I had fun or loved it. My mom's parents asked her why I had to make more sacrifices, and they told her she really needs to figure out better stuff for me. Both sets of grandparents offered to let me spend more time with them, as in overnights or moving in. My mom and stepdad said that wasn't needed and asked why I'd leave my family. My dad's parents said I shouldn't be forced to play caretaker at night, and clearly they can't afford to give me the privacy and space a 16-year-old needs. Once enough of my extended family told my mom and stepdad this stuff, they both accused me of making a big deal out of it. They said it was a vacation, even if it wasn't the one I wanted, and I should consider it one because I got away from our house for 10 days and got new experiences. Except I didn't, because we're limited in what we can all do as a family because of Jaden. My mom and stepdad are still mad about how I see the vacation, but it was ruined for me with everything that happened. I'm not exaggerating or lying about it. I didn't have fun like I expected because I didn't even get to be comfortable at night. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You should not be sharing a room as a caretaker of your stepbrother on a regular basis to begin with. You are not his parent. My grandparents all told my mom and stepdad the same thing, but they say it's not like that, even though it actually is. The only reason it needs to be me is because he needs to be comforted by someone's presence and sometimes soothed at night. That's not supposed to be my job, but it is, and I can sort of live with it. But on vacation, I wanted a break from that, and I didn't get one. It's understandable that they're concerned about him, but why haven't they offered to have him sleep with them? Have you asked them that? They are his parents, not you. I did ask, but they never gave a clear answer. Am I the a-hole for bringing up my parents' favoritism of my brother after they said they needed my help and I refused? I, 17 male, have one older brother, Sam, 19 male, and he was always our parents' favorite. I'm not the only person who knows or acknowledges this either. Sam does. So do both maternal and paternal grandparents, my maternal aunt, and all our cousins. For our cousins, it was a running gag that if my parents were ever broke, they'd sell me to keep spoiling Sam. A lot of what I'll mention involves money, and I wanted to give everyone a heads up now. But it won't be all I talk about. And this won't be able to cover everything because there are 17 years of proof, lol. So when I say my parents favor Sam, and that's just the way it is, I mean it's obvious in so many ways. They're more considerate with buying him birthday and Christmas gifts. They know what he wants, and they make sure to get him the biggest item every time, and then they make sure extended family and family friends know what else he wants. They've asked grandparents to get him extra video games when our parents bought him a console. Or they'll ask them to complete the set of team jerseys they know my brother wants. I know this because it was argued about in front of me once or twice. But when it comes to gifts for my birthday and Christmas, I get pretty generic stuff. Sometimes I get something trending, but I always get clothes, shoes, and hygiene sets. Even when I have a list of stuff I'd like, it still happens, and I don't think I ever got something I actually wanted from my parents. It was always others who got me wish-listed items. I remember being like 7 or 8, and I really wanted this Pokemon set. I had asked for it for my birthday and Christmas, and got it neither time. Then my grandparents realized I wanted it, and got it for me after. And my parents confiscated it, and told them to keep it until my next birthday. That same year, Sam got his own custom-built PC from our parents. Other times when we're out and he wants something, they have no issue buying it for him. But it doesn't typically happen for me. The exception was when I saw shirts I wanted. My parents got those for me because they said I needed new clothes anyway. Stuff like that has happened a few times by now. Sam was always in football. My parents signed him up when he was 4 because he loved watching it and playing it with Dad. They spent so much money and even signed him up in different places when he didn't like somewhere. But I didn't have an extracurricular until I was 11. When I was in elementary school, my class was taken to play hockey, and I loved it. I asked my parents if I could play, and they said no. Even when they were told I was good and they should consider it, they were unwilling to. It was only when my maternal grandparents offered to pay for it that they said yes, and then they took it over after a year and said it was because I stayed on the team and didn't quit, since they wouldn't waste the money. Yet they never minded Sam quitting teams frequently, and they even drove 2 hours away to get him to football practice because he didn't like the 2 local teams. Something else that has always bothered me is they make a point of saying we always need to support each other and show up for family. We go to all Sam's games, and we even showed up to cheer him on at pre-game practices and anytime they had a special event at practices. I always had to be there. But it wasn't as strictly followed with me, and sometimes they would lose all enthusiasm for supporting me. Like one time a couple of years ago, they asked him about a game and he told them he didn't have one. They were like, okay, then I guess we have no plans. And I told them I had a game. They were like, oh sorry, we didn't realize. Then Sam jumped in and said he wouldn't be there because he had plans with friends. They said it was fine and I didn't need everyone there, but I was never allowed to say that. All that built up to a few weeks ago when my parents told me they needed my help getting the house all fixed up because they're selling. This was the first time I heard about it, and they were like, oh, we told Sam. That really bothered me because I still live here and Sam doesn't. They said we needed to fix up stuff before the house can go on the market, and I said I didn't care, and they needed to ask Sam. They were like, what? And I said they should ask their favorite. You know, the one they told and the one they always treat better. I brought up the stuff I mentioned here and lots of other things. My parents got mad and said I was overreacting and I still needed to help. I told them to get Sam's help since he's the one they keep in the loop and prefer. My parents were mad and talked to my grandparents, and then got mad at them. Then Mom talked to my aunt and that anger worsened because they all agreed with me. But my parents were like, I didn't get to throw that in their face like that and I don't get to refuse to help. Then we got into a fight and they're still mad at me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Parents who play favorites deserve what they get when the children they neglect turn their backs on them. Stand your ground. I'm sorry, and I hope you have a great life. Thanks. I'll do my best to make sure my life only gets better after here. Info. Is your brother in college with parents paying for it? If yes, then ask them if they are giving you a full ride like Sam. If they make excuses, consider leaving and go live with a relative. Typically, someone like Sam ends up being a bit of a deadbeat due to the overindulgence by the parents. Do your best in school, go to a great college, and have a rewarding career. As an adult, keep your finances to yourself, including any savings you have for a major purchase. Otherwise, they'll come knocking and ask you to help Sam out, which you'll refuse. Just remember, OP, there's your blood family and then there's your soul family. Those that love and nurture you. Surround yourself with your soul family, which can include blood. Not the a-hole. I'd spend as little time as possible at home and more time with your friends and extended family. Yeah, he's in college that they're paying for. They give him extra to spend every week too. But none of that is planned for me. I know because they told him when he was 16 and they met with his guidance counselor to discuss it a year before he graduated. They have not done that with me. My grandparents will let me live with them when I'm 18, but not before then. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister her boundary will destroy her relationship with her nephew? Original post. I, 30 female, recently got married and had a baby. My sister, 24, does not like my husband and will not tell me why. When I first brought him home to introduce everyone, she was a bit standoffish. But in general, she doesn't really like people, has very few friends, never brings anyone home to meet the family, and has never wanted to spend time with anyone I brought home. Before my husband and I got married, I asked her if she had any issues with him. She said no, and that he seemed nice. I asked her to be my maid of honor and thought all was well. Fast forward to last week, my husband went to drop off something at the family home. My sister lives with my parents and came back looking shaken. I asked him what happened, and he said he knocked, went into the kitchen, and my sister told him my parents weren't home. He said he tried to give her the stuff I had asked him to drop off, and she told him to put it in the garage. It was food, even though they were in the kitchen. He said as he was picking the stuff back up to go, he tried making small talk, commenting about the weather, and she snapped at him saying, "Don't freaking talk to me," and stormed out of the room. My husband has never given me a reason to worry about him being inappropriate or anything, but that was where my mind first went. We lived near them, and he had been gone for less than 5 minutes. I called my sister to ask what happened, and she hung up on me. I messaged her, and she ignored me, until this morning when I bombarded her phone with messages because I wanted to resolve whatever was going on. She finally replied, and basically said she hates him, has always hated him, and her only boundary is that he never talks to her. In the 7 years we have been together, they've spoken maybe 5 times, and that was mostly him greeting her. I asked her why, and she said she doesn't need a reason. She just doesn't like him and doesn't want him around. I asked her point blank if he had done or said something to make her feel like that, and she said he didn't do anything and that she doesn't need a reason to feel how she does. Now my family's very close. My other sibling, brother 29, and I sometimes dropped by unannounced to help my mom cook dinner or just hang out. My parents encourage this, as they say they like having us around. I told her it's going to be weird if he can't even just greet her when we come over. She said she was sick of me having a stranger in her home. I told her I didn't realize she felt that way about him and said I wouldn't ask him to drop stuff off without me being around anymore. Mind you, she's had 7 years to get to know him, and I didn't realize she still considered him a stranger. She then said that was not the point, that she didn't want him talking to her at all, and that was the boundary she wanted respected. I told her I would tell him and try to keep them apart, but that would mean her time with my son, her 6-month-old nephew, would be affected because my husband will not be comfortable with our son being around someone who hates him. Frankly, I'm now uncomfortable with it too, because I don't know what ideas she will try to put in his head. It's also going to affect my parents' time with him, because if my husband can't bring him around, it's going to affect the number of times he goes over there. I didn't tell her, but that hurts my heart because they absolutely adore my son. He's their first and only grandchild so far, and they love spending time with him, always telling us to bring him over. She said I was playing the victim, painting her as a bitch, and trying to trample the only boundaries she has set for herself. I'm currently thoroughly lost and trying to figure out the best way forward. Am I the a-hole here? And is there any way I can fix this situation? Edit. I never expected so many replies in such a short time, but I appreciate the responses. To clarify a few things and answer some questions. 1. I've mentioned it to my parents and they're aware of what happened. My mom said she'll sit my sister down for a conversation, but from what I hear, my sister keeps making excuses to avoid it. Busy, tired, wanting more time, etc. My dad says not to worry about it and that it will blow over. My dad had a heart attack recently and is currently recovering, so I don't want to push it with them right now and stress him out. I left it at that with him and changed the subject. 2. My partner is amazing and has never given me reason to worry about him being around any females. I admit I was worried he had done something when he told me how she responded, because I can't wrap my brain around why she would blow up over just small talk. But she herself said he didn't do anything. 3. I know my brother has had partners, but he hasn't brought any home. I myself didn't bring anyone home until I was serious about them and thought there might be a future. Brought home a grand total of 2 guys, my current partner and my ex from college. Regarding her mental health, she has always had a bad temper and has snapped at me many times with no apology, even when she realized later she was wrong, like accused me of taking her shoes, which she had actually just left in the vehicle. There has never been anything on this level before. Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. This is very weird. You should speak with your mom and brother to see if your sister has disclosed a reason or if she has otherwise been paranoid. It reads like jealousy to me, to be honest. Maybe she feels he's taking her away from the family, but if he's done nothing to her and she won't give a reason, if I were OP, I'd go low or no contact with the sister. Family events, baby showers, parties, etc. Everyone would be invited except for her. You don't want to talk to my husband and we can't resolve this? Fine, LOL, you're on your own. I don't entertain childishness like this. This is what I do. Invite the family for Thanksgiving and Christmas, except for the sister, since she wants nothing to do with the husband. Oh well, it is what she wants. That's right, her boundary is unreasonable. Hating a family member for no reason is just too selfish. It's also not a boundary. If you behave toward me in a way that I find uncomfortable, I will end the interaction, is a boundary. Don't talk to me under any circumstances. It's just being controlling, and for apparently no reason beyond vibes. Now for the mini update. I'm blown away by the number of responses. I'm trying to read them all, but replying to everyone is a bit difficult due to the volume. I appreciate all the responses though. It gives me perspective. To clarify, the only reason I considered my husband might have done something is because I'm in healthcare, in an environment where all sides of all stories have to be looked at. My first instinct was that she was being out of line for no reason, but I always try to look at both sides, and was trying to figure out why she said what she did. Both he and she said that he didn't do anything, and I'm going with that. Growing up, my brother was the golden child. My dad only wanted a son and kept talking about his son and his legacy. My dad has evolved over the years. He doesn't do that anymore and makes all his children a priority now. The dad I had when I was 10 is a different man than the one I have now. My sister was my mom's favorite. She would always say that to us. I never wanted to be the calm princess my mom wanted. I wanted to make my dad happy, be as boy-like as possible, and refuse to wear the dresses, etc. she wanted me to. That relationship has also evolved. My mom and I are on much better terms now than when I was a kid. I was the oddball and my siblings and I weren't really close until everyone was past 14 or 15. Then we started finding shared interests, etc. My husband was beyond happy to marry into my family. My parents treat him like their own son, and he has said many times they feel more like family than his own family. He has 3 brothers, but he's the youngest by 10 years and felt left out a lot. He once told me he was excited to have a sister-in-law, as he has none of his own and isn't close with his brothers. So this whole thing has him down, and I feel horrible for even considering he had done anything inappropriate when I knew deep down he hadn't. I was just trying to figure out what was going on. My sister told my dad she will sit down with us to talk about it this afternoon when I get off work, so I'm waiting to hear what she says in his presence. I will update again after we talk. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister move into my apartment temporarily after she got evicted, even though I have the space? This just happened a few days ago, and my family's blowing up my phone. I, 29 female, live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment that I worked years to finally afford. It's not huge, but it's mine. I keep the 2nd bedroom as a home office or guest room. My sister, 26 female, has always been kind of reckless with money. Nice cars she can't afford, shopping sprees, skipping rent to go on vacations. For years, my parents bailed her out, but now they're retired and can't anymore. Last week, she got evicted because she hadn't paid rent in months. She called me crying, saying she just needs a place to crash until she gets back on her feet. But here's the thing, this isn't the first time. 3 years ago, I let her live with me after a breakup. She promised it would only be for a few weeks. It turned into 11 months of chaos. She never helped with bills, left the place a mess, brought random people over, and when I finally asked her to leave, she called me heartless and didn't speak to me for almost a year. So this time, I said no, calmly but firmly. I told her I can't risk going through that again. I offered to help her look for cheaper apartments, even said I'd help with first month's groceries if she could find a room to rent. But she blew up at me, said I was choosing money over family, and that she's pregnant, something I didn't even know until that phone call. Now my parents are furious. They say I'm letting my sister become homeless while expecting a baby, and that family comes first. My mom even said, "You have 2 bedrooms, you're being selfish keeping one empty." But that empty room is literally where I work full-time. I feel guilty. I don't want my sister living on the street, but I also know from experience that if she moves in, she won't leave. And now that a baby is in the mix, I'll basically be a stand-in parent with no end date. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to let my pregnant sister move in with me after she got evicted? You already gave her a chance before, and she burned that bridge by taking advantage of you. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you refuse to let someone destroy your stability. Helping her find other resources is more than enough, not the a-hole. Exactly this. Last time I let her move in, it nearly broke me, financially and emotionally. I don't think people understand how draining it is to have someone in your home who doesn't respect your space or boundaries. Saying no this time isn't me abandoning her, it's me protecting myself from going through the same nightmare again. I've already offered to help her find other options, but I can't be her safety net anymore. Your parents are trying to guilt you into fixing a problem they can't fix anymore. It's not your responsibility to parent your sister or her baby. You worked hard for your place, and you deserve peace in it. Don't sacrifice that because she refuses to change. Yes, this is exactly how it feels. My parents keep framing it like I'm turning my back on a family. But really, they just don't want to deal with the fallout themselves anymore. I put in years of work to get my own space and stability, and I won't throw that away because my sister refuses to make different choices. It's exhausting always being the one expected to clean up her mess.
Update. I was an accident, and after years of negligence, I told my family I wished they had terminated me or given me up for adoption. Original post. I was basically an accident. When I was born, my siblings were 16 male, 18 female, 20 female, 23 female, and my parents were both 46. I was never mistreated in my childhood, but I was neglected and my entire family resented me. My parents didn't really think that they would get pregnant again, but here we are. I was never really looked after for by anyone, and basically had to raise myself. No one ever really spent any time with me or played with me or anything when I was a kid. They didn't ever buy anything significant for me, just handed my siblings clothes and things. I realized this as I got older, so I focused on myself. My thought process at the time was that there was something wrong with me because my siblings were loved by them. So if I improved myself and did things for them, maybe then they would accept me and love me. I always got the best grades in school. My father was a football enthusiast and played in high school, but I was a basketball lover. But I still dropped it and took up football just to make him proud. I make sure I did all my chores readily, always kept my room clean, but nothing I did was ever enough for them. Like for example, if I was first in class, my parents would ask me, why didn't I get a higher score? They ignored the percentile but focused on the percentage, and things like that. My siblings or parents never even bothered to show up for a single game. I was never appreciated for what I was, only detested me for what I wasn't. My siblings also did not allow me to hang out with them at any time at all. We celebrated my father's birthday yesterday. I am 16 today. My siblings did not live with us anymore and my mother had to leave early and would not return till later in the evening. So it was just him and me for the day, so I decided to serve him breakfast in his bed just as he woke up. I cooked and bought him a tie for a present. I know it's not the best present, but I was on a budget. Nothing too extravagant because I want to save as much money as possible for college, but it was definitely a smart one. I also cooked lunch for us and took care of all the chores. The most he could come up with was a pathetic thank you, and it was clear he wanted me to leave him alone, so I did just that. We all went out, siblings included, to a dinner, and the way these would go is that they would all have a good time and I would just sit in a corner. This is the case with almost all family dinners we have ever attended. We went back home and I don't know why. I really don't know what triggered it. But for some reason, I just started crying all of a sudden. Maybe it was them being so happy together. I don't know. And when they asked me what happened, I just blew up at them and told them how I felt about my entire childhood. How they never showed me any kind of love and affection among other things. I don't know exactly what I said, but I do remember I ended it by saying that I wish that they had gotten rid of me if they hate me so much. Or could have given me up for adoption so they could all live their lives without me. My eldest sister started to say something, but I just ran up to my room and closed the door. And went to sleep listening to some Hans Zimmer because they just kept knocking at the door. Early this morning, I went out my window and went to a secluded spot that I often go to, usually to play some guitar or just pace around listening to music or just enjoy the sound of nature. I'm sitting down here right now writing this on my phone at 4:30 a.m. and don't know what to do at all. I'm sorry if I just went out on a rant, but this is the first time that I am able to tell my childhood to anyone. Now, how exactly do I tackle this problem? I have pretty much given up on my family and have spent enough of my time trying to please them. Do I still try to form any kind of bond with them? Do I completely drop them off? What exactly is the best thing to do here? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Wow. This actually got me emotional. I can't imagine your pain. You are doing great in school and will soon be going to college. Do you think you can hold it together until then? Once you move out of college, you are on your own, man. Since you told them how you feel, they will try to make you feel better. If it feels genuine to you, go with it. If not, keep strong. Hold to yourself and keep going. Your life is worth living. You have great potential and you will excel. Try to focus on all that you want to accomplish in life now that you are done trying to please your family. Life gets so much better in college. You may even find that you make friends that become like family. Try to live on campus your first year. Being away will give you and your family time to process, and it may even heal your relationship with them. You'll no longer rely on them and will be able to forge your own path. I'd also encourage you to look into therapy once you get to college. Many campuses will offer a counselor for free. It sounds like you've never had anyone to talk to about this, and a therapist can really help validate everything you are feeling and help you process. Our experiences in early childhood can affect us in so many ways. It will no doubt affect the relationships you form with new people as a young adult. Starting to process what your family put you through as soon as possible will set you up to have healthier relationships outside of your family. Start living for yourself and take back your confidence. Rejoin basketball. Get excited about college by ordering the catalogs and envisioning where you might want to live and study. You can shadow careers, which I recommended doing ASAP. I can't tell you how many times I changed my major or how many people, including myself, wasn't a fan of the day-to-day job and wish they'd chosen something else. Focus on the future because I don't think your family can make up for 16 years, but I've also found that family gets closer when you move out. Thank you, and I have got a major in mind and have already started applying for colleges. I just hope that I can find a decent scholarship because I don't really want to depend on my parents' money. You might also want to look at getting legally emancipated once you are done with high school. Otherwise, the federal financial aid programs will require your parents' income information until you are 25, regardless of whether your parents will contribute. Your student awards are based on the assumption that they will, which means more loan debt that you would have to take on to cover it. Now for the update. First of all, I want to thank everyone for the amount of support that you guys have given. It was really overwhelming, and I can't express in words how much that meant to me. I was reading all the comments and everything till about 11 to 12, then decided to go home to face the family. I arrived home to quite a melancholic environment. As soon as I arrived, the first thing they all did was hug me, which honestly surprised me. This was probably the first time in years they were showing me any kind of affection. They had prepared some food for me, and after I ate, we all had a talk. My oldest nephew, 2 years younger than me, who often reads posts from the sub, saw it and showed it to my sister. They all first of all apologized for the way they treated me. They confirmed that I was an accident and none of them wanted to deal with another baby, and I basically ruined their life plans. They didn't word it this way. They didn't really want to do anything with me, so they just started ignoring me because I never seemed to need anything from them. Their reasoning was that I was always doing great in life. I always did my chores on time, kept my things neat and clean as a kid, Always got good grades, never complained about anything, did great in sports, and they just assumed that I never required/wanted anything from them. So they were able to just keep ignoring me and pretend as if I wasn't there basically. They said that this didn't justify their behavior, especially after they read a post. They just wanted to explain their own actions. It just made it easy for them to ignore me. They all asked me to forgive them for alienating me, and they said that they would do their best from now on to make me feel as I was a part of the family. They then wanted to go out and celebrate my birthday, but I was just mentally and physically exhausted. So I just went to sleep, woke up in the evening, and just ended up playing games for the rest of the night and went back to sleep. I don't really know how to feel about this. I thought about it long and hard and decided I'll try to form some kind of bond with them if that's even possible. The one thing I'll do is trying to start to work and live for just myself right now. My priority is getting to college right now, and I'll mainly work towards that. If reconciliation doesn't work out, at least I have a goal and purpose in life to work towards until I get away from here. Thank you so much for helping me and supporting me through all this. If you guys have any further questions, please feel free to ask me, and once again, thank you. Just wanted to send you a huge, fierce mom hug. You sound like an incredible and resilient person, and I hope you see your worth. You deserve better. I know you will achieve amazing things. Warmest thoughts and wishes. I wasn't there for your first post, so I just want to say I'm really sorry how things have gone the first 16 years of your life. No child should ever be put in your situation. With them at least admitting their faults, I would heavily suggest you push them to get you some individual, and if you're not comfortable, family therapy. I just want to comment, however, that I really dislike that they gave any sort of reasoning for their behavior past. We were selfish and acted selfishly. Especially when it puts a little of the blame on you. You were just easy to ignore. That is not true no matter how they try and justify it. It doesn't matter how much maintenance you require. A child who is fairly independent and self-sufficient will still get all the love and positive attention they need in a healthy family. The virtue of being your parent should have gotten you the love and attention required. You repeatedly tried to get their attention in a positive way that shouldn't have been needed. Put effort into learning your father's interests, made their birthday special, and many more acts, I'm sure, with no reciprocal acts. It's their own selfishness and only their selfishness that denied you. Please do not take their reasoning comments to heart. What probably ended up happening was your family had a hard look at themselves and thought, holy smokes, how did we let it get this bad? But because they probably don't think they're that bad a person to neglect a child for 16 years, they went with, well, if they truly needed help, we would have given it them. It is rude to say they would have done differently if you had acted differently. It shifts blame from their unacceptable actions to your behavior you did or didn't do. Preach. Of course they blame it all on you. They're still being selfish and not just rude, but so callous. A teen who's remarkably in touch with his feelings finally pours his heart out to them, and all they can do is victim blame. And what if Opie hadn't been the perfect child? I shudder to think how he would have been treated because their love isn't even conditional. Yikes. Honey, I don't know how to say this in a kind way, so I'm going to just rip the band-aid off. I don't think they're sorry, and I don't think anything will change. My parents didn't want me either, but I was fortunate that my paternal grandparents fought for custody and won. I'm 33 now, and my mother hasn't spoken to me for nearly a year. Haven't heard from my father in about 3 years. They go through these phases, my mom especially, where they're so sorry they were cruel and absent. So sorry. They'll change, they'll do anything. But they never do. Apologies without behavior change are worthless. You do not owe them a place in your life just because they are your biological family. You need to decide what you want your life with, or without, them to look like, what behavior changes you want to see from them, and what you're willing to do if they refuse. I'm sorry, honey, but I just wouldn't put much stock in their response here. I'm definitely not going to be hoping for them to come around, and I am mentally preparing myself in case things don't work out. Basically hoping for the best and preparing for the worst, if that makes any sense. I'm not going to be the one to reach out. The ball is in their court, and this time they will be the ones who will have to make a move. Now for the last story. My dad's male 54 affair has ruined my view on my, female 22, entire family. In April 2021, while my sister, female 28, and mother, female 46, were in our home country for my mom's teeth issues, I was staying home alone with my dad, male 54. I have always loved my family. Despite having a weird gut feeling about my dad, I never knew what it was. I trusted him, but I always felt like something was off. And I think it had definitely something to do with my mother always complaining about his wrongdoings from the past. She never mentioned any cheating though. It was always about him sending money to his parents and not helping her raise us. I remember feeling resentful towards my dad for that reason and hoping they would separate. But she hadn't left him, because according to her, he is the best father ever, and we're lucky to have a dad like him. But she would still very regularly talk bad about him to us, and tell us she doesn't care how my dad lives his life because she is independent or whatever. Anyways, back to the story. My mom and sister were in sad home country because of my mom's teeth. She got all her teeth removed. She had gum recession and would have to go back in July to get new teeth. One day, while my dad and I were home, I was cleaning the kitchen and heard him talking on the phone on the balcony. I heard him and was curious who he was talking to because it sounded like an apology to someone. And I was thinking some family member asking him for money again. But then he was saying things like, "Of course I will introduce my children to you. My youngest, me, will finish university this year, so until then I have to financially support her. But I want a life with you. I also want to meet your children. I want to finally live my life the way I want to. I want to live with you because we share the same views on life. We're soulmates." I was absolutely stunned when I heard these things. I knew my dad wasn't a great partner, but I really never guessed that he would actually cheat on my mom. I had no idea what to do. I just couldn't confront him at that moment. I decided to talk to my sister about it when they were back. 2 days after that happened, my mom and sister came back and my mom was in the worst mental state I have ever seen her in. She had all of her teeth removed and the denture they made for her didn't fit her, but she had to travel back, so that meant she had to stay without teeth until July. She felt extremely ugly. Her confidence and self-esteem were non-existent. I told my sister about my dad having an affair, and I expected her to be shocked about it, but she seemed so normal. She later told me that since she was a kid, my dad always had multiple different girlfriends. When she was 6 years old, he even introduced her to one of his girlfriends and continued to have affairs. The last one she knew about was in 2012. After that, she moved out anyways. Apparently, my mom knew about them all and they would argue, but she would never leave. I was so shocked. I have lived my entire life not knowing any of that. I asked her why she never told me, and she said it was because I was young. I told her I wanted to tell mom about it, but she told me we should wait until she gets her teeth done because she really wouldn't be able to deal with it. I said alright, and then suddenly my dad is cheering her up, making her feel good about herself, and they're more loving than they were before. So we decided to drop it. After that, I moved out. It honestly was the best time of my life. I hate living at home. I can't stand it. I can't think of anything else but that. I am temporarily back home, but I will move out again to do my master's and work. Anything my dad does pisses me off. I hate whenever my mom talks good about him. I feel so betrayed because she always preaches independence and how men ain't it, and talks bad about almost everybody's relationship. And I also can't believe how my sister can still be so normal to my dad and act like nothing ever happened. I feel so gaslit and it is driving me crazy. I just don't know how to deal with this, but I think when I am away from them, I will feel better again. I would love advice from people who have been through something similar. Now for the advice. I am so sorry he is like this. This is a lot and probably above this form's ability level. Can you get to a therapist? It will help to have someone to talk all this out with who is also a pro. I think a therapist might really be the way to go. I've been thinking about it for some time, but never got to do it. If she is aware of the affairs and says she doesn't care how my dad lives his life because she is independent or whatever, and if he is being supportive and loving to her when she needs it the most, maybe this is just a relationship they have worked out between themselves. Now is probably not the best time to raise it with your mom, but have you tried talking about it with your dad? I don't think I can have this conversation with him honestly. Back when I was younger, my sister talked to him about it apparently, but he just cried in front of her and told her he is sorry and would not do it again.